Welcome to another episode of G Connect today. Before we start, let me remind you that G Connect is a program where we try to provide you issues as they are, coming up in the polity. We try to bring you up to speed with what is happening in the political environment, the social environment, the technological environment, and of course the business environment. So on this program, as you stay glued to this channel that you're watching us from, I promise you'll be updated even as things are just happening. And we have the privilege always of having our group managing director in the person of Mr. Godfrey Ajayi Sunday.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sailume. As usual, we'll be looking at salient issue in the polity, and again, as at first, the CEO, who are the anchor of the enterprise that we're trying to promote. So today we're going to be looking at those salient issues. This is the election week.
Yes.
Yeah, the election that we've been looking up to.
Yes.
For how many days countdown? People have done all manner of countdown, and today. It's like 4 days to the elections. So
from 4 years to 4 days.
So very soon the wee hour will come. So again, who is going to win these elections?
It's too difficult to call, and I think that is one of the questions that I was going to ask you. We have a lot of polls, that have predicted. Some predict Obi is going to win. Some predict Atiku is going to win. Some predict Tinubu is going to win. But before we come to the polling, I want you to tell us from your experience, and your vantage point of dealing with the top guns, as it were.
Okay.
Why is the cash scarce?
Oh, wow, it's a very interesting scenario. Over the week, I traveled to my village for family issues, and I will tell you, I successfully traveled to the village without cash. So I went to the village without cash, but of course, with the accounts that we have, you expect that ordinarily you will call your account officer to say, okay, look, I will need so amount of money, and a week before I traveled, I called my account officer. I don't want to name the bank now, and he said to me, "Oga, na POS I dey use." So that's to clearly tell you that look, the thing was beyond
their control,
his control. So I now took the bold step. I went to another bank, one of the big banks in Nigeria, and I said, "Look, I'm going to see Mama in the village, and I just have to give her something." So he said, "Look, this is how much I can give you to give her." And it wasn't worth it at all. But I just had to take it, and I embarked on the journey. My first point of call was the place they call Giri Junction to try to buy onions and so on and so forth. And they said, "Look, Oga, no cash, no transfer." No transfer. So you have to do better. Yeah, so eventually from the little I got to give Mama, I had to buy onions and bread for them. But eventually I went to the village and I came back, and I didn't have to spend so much cash.
Wow.
So I was able to buy food tank doing transfer. So the irony is that people now accept transfer. They now make POS available. But again, this morning, it was terrible. Since yesterday, I've been trying to do some transactions online, and network are not going.
Yes.
So I don't know how we find ourselves in this situation. There are the good and the bad side of it.
Yes. Yeah. So, but can we say, because somebody was saying FDC, financial derivatives.
Okay.
Your friend
Bismarck.
Yes, Bismarck Rwanda. He was quoted to be saying that for every hour that Nigerian waste in queuing for fuel, queuing for cash, that it amounts to $18 million.
Yeah, I will agree with him because personally, as a person, I try to avoid the queues as much as possible. The fuel queues, I mean, I can't just imagine myself going to queue for
cash or for fuel.
Because again, a long time ago, I learned a principle to say, on a Saturday, if I need to read a book, maybe for 3 hours to gain knowledge, for me to be able to gain resources, rather than to go wash and iron my clothes, which one would you rather prefer to do? If I would read a book to be able to employ somebody to be able to do that service for me,
yes,
then I'd rather go for that option. So from that, I learned a long time ago that, look, it's not worth it. It's not worth it going to queue for anything. And we must just begin to see how we can look beyond trying to solve this problem. Because again, if you look at, in reality, there should be minimal amount of cash, yes, in the economy to keep
the economy afloat.
Yeah, to keep the economy afloat. You're taking Okada, you're buying groceries at the supermarkets. Those little there should be cash to service that level of economy. Otherwise, people go to the bank, waste a whole day trying to get what is. I mean, it's annoying because people talk about. I mean, I was listening to somebody yesterday. Was saying, look, you are violating the fundamental rights of the people. The man has generally work for his cash. The money is in the bank. The man now want to have access to his own money, not palliative, not traders' money.
Yes.
You know, his own money, and you are depriving him of that kind of money. So it's unheard of.
Yeah, it's unheard of. But we have heard about it in India.
Yeah.
Sometime I think 1996 or 2006. Within that time frame, India did the same thing. Although in their own case, I think it was a bit shorter. But we also learned that, you know, this kind of swapping of currency requires a longer time frame.
Definitely.
Now, so which now makes people to assume that, okay, perhaps Nigeria Buhari administration is taking this step because they have other objectives that they want to achieve.
Yeah.
And you know, from the president's statement, we kind of try to narrow it down to say, okay, the president wants to stop because he has continued to say that he wants to. One of the legacy he wants to leave is, you know, a good election.
Yeah.
You know, so people are now assuming that perhaps he wants to ensure a free, fair, and credible election, so the question, that is devoid of vote buying.
The question would have been, is there another way this would have been done?
Can be achieved.
That would have been better. There are quite a number of ways that could be done. And you know, in our last episode, we talked about the M-Pesa.
Yes.
Okay.
Model.
One of the good thing about the cashless society, which we can achieve through technology, is that you find a situation now where the rate of kidnapping
has reduced.
Yes, drastically. In fact, in the last 1 week or in the last 2 weeks, you hardly hear about that again. Yeah. Because again, if you kidnap anybody now, I mean, you cannot even raise
a 1 million naira.
You cannot even raise 1 million. So the bandits are clearly aware of that. So you have stayed off kidnapping anybody. So on that side, you will say, okay, it's a good side of the policy. But again, how can you achieve a seamless cashless society? So very simple. Okay, we talked about the fact that, okay, all the channels ought to be working. The POS channel, the USSD channel, the internet platform. Then, of course, if you had even introduced the digital side of it, we talked about the M-Pesa, you know, and withdraw completely. There is a need now to even take out the 500 and the 1,000 notes. If somebody says, okay, you come and bribe me with, say, 10 million naira, and it has to be in 100 naira denomination, the guy will have a rethink. Okay, so good policy, but implementation is very faulty. The people are really, I mean, 1 or 2 banks had to go down as a result of attack, you know, on those banks. So cashless society, very good policy, but again, whoever you are targeting, you could have as well just implement a pure cashless society without people getting hurt. Because again, if you now talk about election buying, which is what a lot of people say.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you do transfer, you can trace transfer. So on a particular election day, you can probably remove those network. Okay, you remove those channels so that no transfer will be able to be done on that particular day. So in that case, you've been able to achieve a situation where
no, because the vote buying,
yes,
they don't do transfer.
Yeah,
they do cash.
And that's what I'm saying now. With a cashless society, using all channels, the alternative will now be say, okay, if we must do vote buying, let us do transfer. So of course they will not use transfer because transfer can easily be
traced.
And if you must also like insist that they want to do transfer on that day, what will now happen is that on that day let those network go down.
Yes, so that they will not be able to do that. That if they insist to do. But the major issue now, because one of the key arguments of the central bank is that at a point they were having about 2 trillion naira out of the formal economic environment. Okay, which now mean to them that this 2 trillion naira is in the hands of the politicians for the purpose of buying this election. So the issue now is there is a lot of pressure on the president.
So I expected them to have drilled down to know what size of the denomination are in the hands of the politicians.
That is why it's 500 and 1,000.
So very simple. Why couldn't they have printed more of the 50 naira and the 100 naira notes? So
and distribute.
Because what we are trying to avoid is a situation where the people do not suffer. Okay, that's what we are trying to avoid now. So clearly, if what is in the hand of the politician is you've been able to drill down to say, okay, it's 500 naira, it's 1,000, then you should have printed more
of the lower currency.
Because let me tell you an experience I had with the onion woman. Okay, while we were there, I parked and I was patient enough discussing with her, and she said to me like, look, if anybody can give me money to feed me and my children for the next 1 month, I will vote for the person.
Wow.
So that means that problem is still fundamentally there. The problem of the fact that people, if they have access to the cash, they are going to sell their vote at the end of the day. So she said that to me clearly, that look, so those kind of person, you can always negotiate with them to say, okay, what about, you're asking for 5,000, what about if I give you 1,000? So we must get our people to the level, because I heard one of the aspirants said, look, what is causing vote buying
is poverty. It's poverty.
And of course, Mr. President promised that he was going to pull out
100 million
of Nigerians. So by today, we're battling with cashless. How many people in reality has been pulled out of
poverty? Or how many people has been pulled back into poverty? I think that is the next question that we need to ask.
Okay.
How many people have been now pulled back into poverty? Because if you look at what is happening today, this cashless or sudden, because this is no longer cashless policy per se, it's sudden implementation of cashless policy has thrown a lot of people off balance.
So as people are saying that immediately after the election, we are hoping that
things will return back to normal. But of course, you know that in Nigeria, once things get to a certain level, getting back becomes
that would be a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And when I was telling somebody close to me to say, probably after the election, money will come back. He said, look, remember there is also the governorship election.
Yes.
So, and I said, well, everything will rise and fall on the presidential election normally in Nigeria. Once we announce who the president will be now, everybody will try to align with who the president. So it's a terrible situation.
Terrible because, even the CBN has now been overwhelmed.
Yeah.
A lot of, for example, between November 26, when they first made this pronouncement of the cashless, this implementation of this Naira redesign. CBN has made not less than 13 press releases. 13. So, and in the midst of all, people still feel they have not been able to communicate effectively. For example, There is a law that says you were trying to call my attention to that law at a point.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly how we had that conversation, but the law, the CBN Act, clearly provides that even after this, I'm paraphrasing now, even after this swapping stuff, you have the old Naira. You can still take it to central bank
and,
so that they can redeem it. They have a mandate to redeem it. Now, they did not communicate that aspect of the law properly to people.
And the people found the law out by themselves.
Yes.
As a result of so much arguments, CBN deliberately was silent on that law until some legal experts came up to say, look, there's nothing like that. And of course, some people try to mistake that it's not a Nigerian law, it's a CBN law. And that's why people are now insisting that, look, the central bank governor is supposed to be independent of the president.
Yes.
But there seem to be like
they are cohabiting
to be able to put Nigeria
like a CMS twins
across all this. So Nigerians are very resilient people. Right now there is a bit of calm, even though the people are still.
Can it be calm of the graveyard? Because the day is Saturday.
Yeah, it's Saturday, and let's hope that by Monday the cash will begin to come back to the system. Because like we said from the beginning, we need a minimal amount of liquidity.
I think about 1 trillion is what we needed to be able to make the economy to float. But from what experts are putting together, CBN is claiming that they have printed about 2 trillion.
Okay.
So the argument is, if you have printed 2 trillion and we needed just 1 trillion for the economy to float, where is the money?
Okay, so what will have probably happened was that maybe they printed a particular denomination that they themselves didn't actually want to now put in circulation.
In circulation.
Because the reality of the argument was that the money are with the banks. But obviously today, it's obvious that the money is not with the bank. Because in those days you could have, and that's part of the healing process of Nigeria. In those days you could call your account officer or you call the BM as an average Nigerian to say, look, make reservation for me. But clearly now they will look you in the eye and tell you that there is nothing like that.
Okay, so the thing has become so worse that a lot of fake news, and we're in an election season. Fake news can cause a lot of commotion, a lot of crisis.
Yeah.
We have seen what fake news can do in other parts of the world. Not to talk of Rwanda in those days, and what fake news created or caused in that
fake news coupled with liberal journalism.
Yes.
Where at the press of a button, that news that is happening.
It's circulating everywhere.
It's going around.
Yes.
They talk about sharing. The last time we had the train experience, the DG of the railway station was saying that, look, what people do was that they look for bad news or fake news to be able to promote their platforms. Yes. So we really need to be careful. And of course, you are talking about
the First Lady.
Yeah.
Yes, the First Lady. Released in an official Twitter handle. Released a press release from the central bank, and encouraging people to go ahead and spend their 500 naira note and their old ones, the old 500 naira note and the old 1,000 naira note, only for CBN to come up and say, look, this press release is not from CBN.
And the news went viral.
It went viral
because on that day I was somewhere in Edo State, and when somebody broke the news to me that there is now the news that you cannot accept the 500, old 500 and the old 1,000 note, and they started accepting
the old ones.
But I had to start calling the people that I know to say, look, this news is not a confirmed news. But that's why even the top government official in the caliber of the First Lady need to be very, very careful. She's not in position to make any statement as regard the monetary policy. Okay? The people who are responsible for that effect are there. The Emefiele of this world, they are there to tell you what and what to do. And the fake news has been, just opposing with the real news. And the people are getting confused more by the day.
Yeah, people are getting confused by the day. And so what is the job of the CEOs now in this environment? What do you think the CEOs should do? How can they manage this problem? Because anybody can equally be overwhelmed by this fake news.
Yeah.
If
So,
the first lady
yeah.
can be overwhelmed.
Yeah,
at
for the
same time.
CEOs, you know how to verify your news. And when you go through your social media, you should be checking where the news is coming from. Very, very important. There are some credible news sources in Nigeria and across the world. If they put out news, you know, it means that that news has been verified. Okay, you know, even among family now, your wife will be telling you this is what the news is telling you, that it is what I just heard. So it's your responsibility.
Everybody have access to news these days.
Yes, yeah.
As long as you have a phone.
Yeah, you know, in those days it used to be 9 p.m.
Yes.
Everybody will wait for 9 p.m. news. But now,
and those days, it's only the parents that have access to that, because by 9 p.m. most times the children must have been asleep.
Yeah.
But these days, the children have as much news, just as the parents have as much.
The news is on the go.
Yes.
It's on the go. By the minute is dropping. So even I can see that the traditional media are also now struggling to keep pace.
To secure that place.
Yeah. Quite a number of them are opening the YouTube channels now. This is something that at the COG Connect we've done a long time ago.
Yes.
Even radio houses now, everybody now also have a
YouTube channel.
Because again they want to hear from the direct source.
Yes.
So that means we're clearly ahead of the game in what we're doing. So by way of advice, please, when you get that news, make sure that it's from a credible news source, so that you don't end up creating more chaos at the end of the day. I mean, I was watching one of those platforms where somebody, you know, he went to an office and was relaying live about what was happening in Benin at the central bank. And you can clearly hear her voice, and you know that she was not a trained journalist. So it's not all the news that you get that you put out there on the platform. So for our first lady, it's almost less than how many months for you to go.
Yeah.
You need to be a bit more careful with the way you use your Twitter handle and your other handles these days.
Yeah, so let's look at because since we are very close to the election, let's try to look at, you know, the politics of polls. You know, you started with that when you asked asked a question about who is going to win this election. And one way that, you know, political pundits used to kind of estimate or project who wins is by polling. But I don't understand. We have several polls, and almost all of them are, you know, different in terms of who they are projecting that's going to win the election.
Yeah.
Is there a politics around this?
Yeah, it's not the first time polling will fail. Even in America, I've seen polling failing. But again, what we see by the day now is that there are interests.
Yeah.
Okay. There are social media juggernauts who want to project their interests in one way or the other. So the polling that have been done in Nigeria keep pointing to a particular candidate, and some people will tell you that, look, the Nigerian politics is grassroots based, and they still argue that, look, right now they don't see that real grassroots happening for whoever the polling is projecting. So even the prophets that normally we tell you categorically that this person, they are a bit more careful now. They would rather say, okay, this is my candidate, rather than to say this is the person that God said. So I'm sure by Monday, election Saturday, with the Beavers, we're hoping that by Monday, by the grace of God, the eventual winner will emerge. But I still suspect, because again, when we started doing this program and following the polity, there might not be a clear winner by Monday. There might not be a clear winner. So alliance and shifting of camp,
realliance and alliance
would happen
after Saturday.
And it's going to be very interesting. Okay, so and that's why you see everybody is important. Right now we have the big four. Okay, talking about
NNPP, LP, PDP, APC, and PDP,
and the Labour Party.
Yeah.
So There's going to be a lot of horse trading. There's going to be a lot of realignment. So this is where the real political juggernauts will come out to emerge. Because I see that this election, there may not be a clear winner at the end of the Saturday poll.
But let's do some deep analysis.
Yeah.
Buhari won the election without winning the Southeast.
Yeah, you must have 25% in 24 states.
Yes.
Okay, so if you look at 36 states, so if you take out 5 states, you take out 5 states.
You have 31.
You have 31. Okay, so that means that without a particular geopolitical zone,
yes,
you can actually
win the election.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, if you want to look at the candidates one by one, you can see that for Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his stronghold is the Southwest. Okay, you look at Peter Obi, his stronghold is in the Southeast. You look at Atiku, his stronghold is in Northeast. You look at Kwakwanso, his stronghold is Northwest. So you see that out of the 6 zones, 4 zones clearly produced candidates. So leaving out South and the North Central. Okay, so that's why I said, look, if and each of those candidates holds sway in their various political zones. So what now happens is that if they are able to take their zones, average of 5 states, that means each of them has a guaranteed
of 5 states.
5 states. That means 15 states are already
gone.
No, that 20 states are already gone.
Yes.
Leaving at about 16
states.
So you have a candidate like Peter Obi, who the youth are rooting for across the nation. So that means he will be able to score that 25% across those
16 states.
Those remaining 16 states. So if you say 16 plus 5,
that gives you 21.
That's 21.
So you're left with 23.
So
left with 3.
They're left with 3. So if you now look at Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his party has more states in terms of governors. So if they deliver, you have a scenario like that again, having him getting to 21, 22, 23 states. The same thing with Atiku. So at the end of the day, they will get close to 25%, then they may not be able to have that 24 states.
Wow.
Then the joker now comes in, talking about Kwakwanso. Okay? Kwakwanso may not be able to get up to 20. Okay? So, but he is now needed. He is now needed for the rerun. Whoever he aligns with
will not be the winner.
Will now be. so you can see why Kwakwanso is in the race. He may not be in the race to win outright, but he's in the race to become a determinant of who becomes the president. And that will now be. It's not. In those days we were rooting for him to become vice president to Peter Obi. A situation that would have been the reason why he probably didn't take that route would have been that he would have lost his supporters. So, but now, if he's able to determine now whether he wants to go for Atiku or he wants to go for Tinubu or he wants to go for Obi, then he will now be able to negotiate to say, okay, look, the next presidency,
we'll have like 4 ministers.
I should be
5 ministers.
So I should be considered. But I don't see him probably going for an Atiku.
Why? If I may ask.
So the reason why he may not go for Atiku is because if Atiku comes up as a northerner, that's a northern president succeeding Buhari, a northern president, and he's going to spend say another 8 years, then it will be suicidal for him.
Talk about contesting the next election.
So his bet, I'm just trying to predict. His bet may probably be settling for Tinubu
or an Obi. I think this is where the game is, and this is why we tell you that keep coming back to this channel for you to be able to get updated with the real analysis. You can't get this analysis anywhere. But we'll tell you how it is. We have said this long time ago that there may be a runoff election in Nigeria in this very election, and I think you can hear the clarity, you can see the clarity of that analysis, that these four parties might come to a point that they will not be able to reach that 25% in 24 states threshold. So thank you very much. That is a wonderful one. We now see, before this your analysis is coming forward, we have also seen a lot of parties, political parties, collapsing their structure for this party, collapsing their structure for that party. What is there any benefit to them at this stage?
If you get endorsements, it's for your own good. But the other party will tell you that those endorsements does not really matter because it's not just like you talk about polling now. So since it's favoring a particular candidate, they are telling you that look, those polling are not they are not good pollings. So the same thing with endorsement. If you get endorsed, to you the endorsement is good, but to the other your competitor, the endorsement is not good enough. So as it is now, the reason we have so many political parties is very simple. It's for the days of endorsement to say, okay, what will I get if I support you? So we are still expecting the other political party to come together. I think in the Northeast, the coalition of I think the legislators around, I think is that Northeast, said we are endorsing a particular candidate. So we're getting to that level now where people will now want to start trading.
So between now and Saturday it's going to be that, because I think campaign will cease by Thursday.
Yeah.
I think campaign will end by Thursday. So
there's a prediction I read that look, 2 days to the election, the dynamics will actually change.
Wow. So as we wrap up, there is an issue that people have not given much attention to, which is distribution of these sensitive materials that INEC is responsible for. We hear that they are signed agreement with the Road Transport Union and all that, but is there no way, because there was a time when the central bank governor was attempting to contest, INEC came up to express their worry that if the
CBN governor could buy form.
Could buy form. That means that sensitive materials.
Or people can buy form for you.
Yes, that means that sensitive materials might not be safe. Now, these road transporters as well are also partisan.
Yeah, it's become very dicey. In Nigeria today, there is no transportation system. Okay, and the people that the INEC is now trying to rely on, we can see that some part of their leadership have become very, very partisan. So I think what INUT ROW, we're not signing a part with them. We are signing a part with their members. If you show evidence that you have a vehicle and you belong to that group, then INEC will sign an agreement with you for you to be able to convey. So now it's on your own integrity. Okay, it's on your own integrity, and those materials must be conveyed. And luckily, sometimes they get the military involved, the Air Force, to be able to move some of this equipment to difficult areas. But again, this is the time and opportunity for us as a nation to try to solve some of our problems. For example, the transportation system. So it's a big problem, but again, we hope and pray that this time around, election will open
opportunity
at the right time. Because if you are unable to get all those things across to the location at that time, it may actually pose a problem. But the new electoral law has taken care of some of these challenges, to say like by a certain period of time, if election is not conducted, you have to move the election to the following day. But that's why they started moving these materials ahead of time now, and they have no choice than to still use the central bank. And that's why we need to build institutions rather than build individuals. So when you have a CBN that is able to checkmate itself, to say, look, Emefiele is a CBN governor, but when it comes to matter of policy, when it comes to matter of moving money, the system should be able to checkmate fraudulent activities and the influence of individuals. So it's an opportunity for us to build, and that's why I kept saying that, look, we are a nation on the move. We are making progress, okay? Even though some people may argue that it's slow enough, but again, you get to a point where you have to, be confronted with the real problem to be able to provide the right solution at the end of the day. I mean, there are lessons learned from this cashless
crunchy environment. Okay, thank you very much, sir. So I think we have to leave it at this point. The very good point to leave it is where you talked about the fact that we have to build institutions, so that institutions can insulate our businesses, our policies, our culture from ourselves, because sometimes we are the problem of ourselves.
Yes.
So as a CEO, I think that is a message that GMD is leaving for you and for every one of us watching this program. You have a last one?
Yeah, so as CEO, please try to vote. Try to get your staff to vote. Staying on the fence has never helped anybody, and it will never help anybody. So if you must waste your vote this time around, waste it on the candidate that you believe in. And the interesting scenario, in my little journey was to say, look, I talked to, because I do a lot of talking a lot, so I was trying to talk to some of my cousins. They said, look, this election is not about party. It's about individual. So what will happen is that presidential election, you may cast it for a particular person and do governorship
for another person.
So that's the scenario. It's a very interesting scenario.
Dynamics.
So the system is trying to clean up itself. So as CEO, please try to mobilize to get you and your team and your family to vote. And at the end of the day, Nigeria will be better off for all of us at the end of the day.
Let Nigeria be the winner.
At the end of
Saturday.
the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.